Welcome back to Allcarnews. You join me here today with one of the top-selling vehicles in the compact SUV segment, as well as one of the top-selling vehicles within the Kia brand, the 2024 Sportage. And here we have it here in the X-Pro Prestige trim, pretty much the highest trim you can get with this base four-cylinder engine under the hood. And it looks wonderful with these exclusive matte black wheels and the very popular wolf gray paint finish. Though with some hot competition from the updated Nissan Rogue, the fantastic Mazda CX-5, as well as a host of many other competitors like the CR-V, Tiguan, Ford Escape, and more, does this Kia Sportage still stand out enough with its bold styling and impressive technology features, or do you need to wait a little bit longer for a facelift of this version? Nonetheless, we're going to take a full tour and review of this Kia Sportage here today, and let's go dive in. And under this hood is a 2.5-liter naturally aspirated four-cylinder engine, making around 187 horsepower paired to an 8-speed automatic transmission, and that is sending power to all four wheels with a lockable function to make sure we're getting power distributed to all four wheels perfectly, which is definitely going to be helpful for this off-road oriented X-Pro trim. Now, this engine isn't very lively. It doesn't have a lot of character to it. It also does not have the most impressive acceleration times. We're going to be seeing 0 to 60 miles an hour in the 9-second range, over the 9-second range, which may be something you want to consider if you are going on a lot of highway trips and you need to get up to speed quicker. Thankfully, Kia does offer two other powertrains for the Sportage, a hybrid model as well as a plug-in hybrid model with both north of 200 horsepower, even over 220 horsepower in some instances, and that is a much more pleasant powertrain to drive with a turbocharged four-cylinder engine, that electric motor boost as well as the side, and in terms of the plug-in hybrid, you get over 30 miles of electric driving range only. So I would personally go for one of those powertrains, though the only downside is you don't particularly get any X-Pro offerings in either the hybrid or the plug-in hybrid, which I don't think is the biggest deal, as the X-Pro trim is essentially just off-road tires, which you could actually add in the aftermarket sense. And this particular Kia Sportage with this 2.5-liter naturally aspirated four-cylinder also isn't returning the best fuel economy. And the day-to-day average in the city environment, I've been seeing 19 to 22 MPG. If you are driving a little bit more efficiently, you can definitely see closer to towards 26, 27, maybe 28 on the highway if you are being extra efficient. Though you have to remember, with these larger, grippier tires and this setup here, you're going to see a little bit reduced miles per gallon versus a more traditional Kia Sportage, even with this engine. Now, on the visual side for this 2024 Kia Sportage, nothing is generally quite new. We are still awaiting a facelift version of this Kia Sportage, which is going to bring a little bit of some refreshed looks, probably new head-to-end taillight designs, and a more modern, up-to-date interior, even though we have impressive technology on the Sportage. So it still is a very distinctive looking compact SUV in this segment, as you can't really mistake it for anything else, especially with these distinctive headlights over here with this boomerang style LED daytime running light. We also have those Kia signature amber daytime running light accents going on the horizontal plane over here, and all of your headlight elements are blended into this one piece. So thankfully, we do additionally get these LED fog lights mounted in this lower bumper area over here. In this particular Kia Sportage with this X-Pro edition, we have a little bit of a beefier bumper design area over here, as well as all black trim, and this wolf gray paint is a really nice option, especially with a two-tone finish on the black roof. And really the key feature of this particular X-Pro Prestige package, at least on the off-roading point of it, are these wheel and tire options. So we have these exclusive 17-inch matte black wheels over here, which I think look quite tasteful, especially wrapped around these all-terrain tires. Definitely going to provide you some more grip. And they also do a benefit of improving the kind of comfort level over a lot of bumps and ruts in the road. It's definitely going to soak up a lot more of that, and you're not going to feel so much in the cabin versus a thinner sidewall tire. Now, even if this Kia Sportage X-Pro is very mild in its off-road worthiness, especially compared to something like a Subaru Forester Wilderness, the cargo space and storage capacity of this vehicle is still very impressive. Now, back here, before we hop in, we have a very nice sleek design over here with the newer Kia design package and a little bit more of that rugged bumper style. And of course, we have a variety of ways to open this rear tailgate. Even if you have your Kia key available, there is an option inside the vehicle to just stand back here, give it like 2 seconds, and it will actually open for you. Can be a little bit annoying and it's a little bit sensitive, so I prefer to do it the manual way and opening up this nice big power rear tailgate. And this reveals a pretty wide amount of space back here, up to around 39 to almost 40 cubic feet of cargo space behind that second row. And that second row, which also reclines, can also be folded flat down to get around 74 cubic feet of cargo space. And there's a lot of great benefits here. It's a nice, tall, and wide opening. We also have a pretty nice low floor over here, and even opening up this little storage cubby here, we reveal a space saver spare tire over here, which is a nice touch. So you're not going to be left with only just a fix-a-flat kit. You actually do get a spare tire in this particular Kia Sportage. And again, generally nice, it's a quite nice big space back here, and I love the ability to have this quick and easy power option. Now, hopping into the rear seats of the Kia Sportage is actually quite pleasant experience, as you do get a significant amount of rear legroom back here, as well as visibility above with this massive panoramic glass roof. On the door panels here, nothing too crazy, even for this top trim Prestige model. You do have a nice blend of materials, this kind of soft touch material over here, as well as a little bit of a harder touch plastic. So I do like this kind of faux wood design. It may look nice, but up front it is at the day just plastic, and even if you scratch it, it kind of wipes away any of those scratches pretty instantly. We do get an upgraded Harman Kardon speaker system here, so I do like this nice little bright work accents, though the rest is all pretty much plastic design over here, which is pretty typical for this segment. Nice cup holder area over here, and check out these seats in this particular Kia Sportage X-Pro Prestige. We have these nice kind of quilting design over here, so it's a nice pattern and they are quite comfortable. So let's hop inside. Now inside of this Kia Sportage, decent amount of space. We have a cubby over here as well as behind the driver's seat, and there's a lot of unique storage features here, from these coat hanger hooks mounted to the back of the seats. Even on the back of the headrest, there's these unique little hook and hanging areas of us over there as well. We also have USB-C ports located on the back of the seats for all of your passengers, as well as a little storage cubby and air vents over here, though there are no heated rear seats in this particular Kia Sportage, which would be a nice feature to have. Seats themselves, like I mentioned, are quite comfortable. There's a decent amount of thigh support, and they do recline back if you want a little bit more room. We also have a center console area over here with 2 cup holders, which is also a nice touch. And again, pretty decent amount of legroom back here. I can fit my feet under the front seats pretty easily. And we have these nice thick carpeted mats over here. There's just a little bit of a floor hump in the center, which honestly is not too big of an issue. Otherwise, I think it's a nice space over here. Closing the doors, nice solid funk as well, and we have tinted rear glass, privacy glass for you. And I do like how they added LED accent lights for the interior, which is a nice luxury touch, I think, personally, even though up front there in those little mirrors there are incandescent style lights, which is a little bit of a downside. Hopefully they'll fix that for the upcoming facelift. But let's go have a look at this front cabin area over here, which is quite nice with all of this technology. Now, hopping up front in the Kia Sportage, pretty nice same process here, and we do only have those keyless access buttons on the front doors and not on the rear doors, which is particularly fine, I think, in this case. On the door panels here, we get a little bit more gloss black plastic, which, as you can see, is a fingerprint magnet, so keep that in mind if you want to keep your vehicle clean. This is going to be one of those high touch point areas over here. A little bit larger storage than we're going to find on the rear seats, and we do have aluminum pedals on this particular Sportage. Nice thick carpets again, and these front seats are quite nice, just like the rears. We have some nice stitching and quilting in the center. They're actually quite comfortable to sit in, and we have a pretty nice amount of adjustment as well as lumbar support as well. So let's go hop inside. Solid door thunk here, and we do have 2 memory seat functions for these front seats as well. And let's power on our Sportage. Our stop-start button here is in the center console. And we get a nice little welcome animation when you turn the vehicle on, which is quite nice. And that typical Kia chime. So what do we have inside of this Kia Sportage? So inside of this Kia Sportage here, we have the upgraded screens, which is just one of the nice highlights of this interior. Though, like I mentioned, this is not the latest version of Kia's infotainment software, which you're going to find on the new Sorento, the EV9, and a whole bunch of the new facelifted and new generation vehicles coming out. So definitely stay tuned for that, as it brings some nice welcome upgrades. Though this interior is not necessarily bad at all. Even though in this black specification, I think it is very well designed. It's definitely more akin to something like a Volkswagen Tiguan style competitor. It's a little more upscale feeling in here with the design, very European-esque. And up front here, we have this nice steering wheel design here. The buttons are pretty well laid out here, very typical what we're going to find on Hyundai Kia products. So we have on the right-hand side, we have our controls for our configurable center cluster here. There's a few different area screens we can go through, nothing too crazy. And we do have our gauges here, which will change with our drive modes over here, so we can pop into a few different drive modes. You may notice there is no eco mode, actually, so either normal or smart mode is going to be your eco mode. We do have a sport mode as well, and a snow mode, and you do have the ability to lock that center differential here to make sure all 4 wheels are getting power at all times. That also gives us a hill descent control function, and we can turn on auto hold, as well as parking sensors and our 360-degree view camera system, which actually is very, very good. You can see here how it pops up kind of spin it around pretty easily. Very, very nice for this vehicle. And you have a whole bunch of different views you can kind of cycle through. If you want to make sure your wheels are going to be okay, you can even check that as well. So I like the 360-degree view camera system from Kia. They've been doing that for a while, and it's been a pretty good system. We also have those turn signal cameras as well for both the right and left mirrors, which is a wonderful feature as well. Now, in terms of this interior, like I mentioned, we have memory seats. We also have heated and ventilated seats for both the front passenger and driver, which is a nice touch. And there are 3 stages, and as well as a heated steering wheel. All wonderful features. But here is the issue, and why I'm mentioning that there is a new generation software system in the newer Kias, and why you might want to wait for a facelift of this particular Sportage. As you can see here, there is a wireless charger. But I always say in vehicles with a wireless charger that do not have a wireless phone projection such as Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, they're kind of pointless, because then you have to connect your phone via a USB-A port, not even the USB-C. So in this particular vehicle, if you want to use Apple CarPlay, you have to connect your phone via this USB port here. There is no wireless Apple CarPlay connectivity in this particular Kia Sportage, which I personally am not a big fan of. I did mention this in the pre-facelifted Kia Sorento, but now they facelifted it and fixed that particular issue. It may be an issue for you, it may not be, but it's one thing to note if you're looking at this class of vehicle, which many of its competitors do offer wireless CarPlay and Android Auto. Nonetheless, though, I do like how we have a separate little screen here for our climate controls and radio controls here. So if you press this little button here, it will switch to your climate controls, and you're going to notice it's going to switch back to your radio controls in just a second here. And you can actually configure that by holding down this button right here, and it will bring up a little bit of a panel that you can have it return to either climate, the infotainment controls, or just turn that return off so it's manual. So if I leave it in climate now, it's going to stay there, and I can switch it back to the radio controls and it's going to stay there. That's totally up to you and your preference here, but if you wanted to return to one of those screens, you can. Nice controls here for all of our audio systems. We have a quick access climate control system, as well as a customizable start button, which you can make anything you want essentially through the infotainment system. Climate control is very easy to use as well. You can kind of control everything with these little dials here, and you can see all those nice areas here as well. Automatic control, and we have a heated windscreen, just like we're going to find on like a Range Rover or Land Rover products or some Ford products here. You're going to notice these little elements throughout your entire windshield, which may be a little reflective at nighttime, which I have noticed with headlights coming on oncoming traffic, but it is a nice feature to live in colder climates with a lot of ice and snow. Otherwise, we have automatic wipers, as well as automatic headlights controls, as well as our fog light control over there, which is a nice touch. We also are getting a nice electronic parking brake hidden over here, and I do like the mechanism to operate as well. It feels very nice, and we are getting a pretty decent amount of center console storage area over here. So as you can see here, I left this coffee cup here to demonstrate these cool cup holders that Kia always does, where you kind of put your cup here, and you don't want it to slide around, press this little holder here, and it locks it into place. And they are pretty easy to close, just pop them around, which will unlock a little bit more storage for you over here. We do have this nice center armrest over here, which is nice, though it doesn't retract or move anyway, but opening it reveals a nice amount of center console storage over here, as well as your glove box storage over here is a decent amount of space as well. Though one thing to note is you cannot lock the glove box, so if that's important to you, you may want to consider another vehicle within the Kia lineup. Now, we don't actually have a camera as a mirror style system over here, which I honestly would like to see in this particular model. I think that would really stand it out from other competitors, but this is fine. We do have a manual dimming, but it don't appears to see we have any sort of garage home link in this particular Kia Sportage. Up here, very slim controls. We have LED light accents over here, as well as our control for our truly massive panoramic glass roof. This is a real big highlight of this vehicle. If you want a nice open cabin, this is probably one of, if not the biggest one in the entire class, and it opens pretty wide as well. Really impressed with that feature. One of my favorite things. Let me come over to this navigation system and infotainment system here, which I'm honestly not going to dive too big into, just because we have the next generation one from Kia already on sale. So this is going to be replaced soon. But if you are going into an older Kia product, it's not bad at all. The only downside, like I mentioned, is that wired CarPlay and Android Auto. Very easy to navigate. You have this nice home screen area over here. You can see sometimes this matte texture over here is good for glare, but it can pick up fingerprints a little bit easier than a other style display. Pretty easy controls here. This is pretty much your main page. You have built-in navigation if you do want to use that, which is fine. I'd prefer to have phone protection. You do have satellite radio as well in here, though there isn't too many sort of vehicle information style screens here. You do have Kia Connect, which is a connected service that connects to an app, which you do actually have to pay for after, I believe, a year or so. So that's one thing to note, but it's a very simple navigation system. I just do really like this curved display. It definitely helps to stand it out against competitors. It does make it feel a little more premium, and that premium look than you're going to be getting for this class. And that's pretty much Kia's specialty in all their vehicles here. You have this nice looking wood, even though it is plastic, it visually does look nice and helps to elevate the visual appearance of this cabin. And note how I highlight the visual appearance part, because it is still generally all a whole bunch of plastics throughout this interior, but which is totally fine for this segment. And pretty much all competitors build vehicles just like that. One thing to a little bit complain about are all these glossy black surfaces, which pick up just so many fingerprint and smudges. I wish they would kind of move away from this and go for a different style design. Other manufacturers have found a way to do that with some softer touch, higher quality feeling plastics as well. Just a little nitpick there, as well as the lights up here. These are incandescent lights, which just does not match with the LED lights of this interior. I wish they were able to kind of just put a little LED bulb in there. It's really not that big of a deal. I think it would help to elevate this cabin, especially for the $40,000 price tag, and this being the top of the line Kia Sportage. Nonetheless, this is a nice overview of this interior. And I almost wanted to point this out, and they actually got rid of this display on the next generations of their infotainment system. And this is the one thing I'm actually sad about from this one being discontinued, and it's this display over here. I love this display here. Please bring this back. It changes scenery with the time of day. At night it will start doing like a sunset. It even changes with weather conditions. I just think this is a really cool display, and it's a nice little change up from your typical drive modes, but they don't seem to be doing that anymore. I don't think it was as popular as I thought it was going to be, and maybe they're kind of reserving these nicer displays for Genesis models. Though, you know, if you really want that display, you're going to have to go with this particular infotainment system and not the next generation of Kia's system. Nonetheless, let's go take this thing on a drive. Okay, guys, we're now in the Kia Sportage, and let's go head off onto some roads where I think this thing is really meant for in this particular X-Pro package. Like I mentioned earlier, we have those all-terrain tires over, and here we are on the perfect terrain for this vehicle, gravel roads. Really, this X-Pro package is all it's going to get you is this off-road style rubber over here and those unique matte wheels. And under 5 miles per hour, you can actually turn these cameras on to give you a little more of an idea of what's going on around the vehicle, though the second you go above 5 miles per hour, that's going to go away. So as you can see, we have this 360-degree view. The second we go over 5 miles an hour, it shuts off. Now, in terms of any sort of off-road modes, we also don't really have that either, which is a little bit of a downside, especially when you're going for this off-road, soft off-road style variant here. But I will say the addition of this all-terrain rubber on this Kia Sportage really helps both the suspension and the tuning of this vehicle on these kinds of rougher pavements and gravel style roads, and it just handles it so well. Really soaks up all the bumps. But on regular pavement, the vehicle just isn't very inspiring to drive with not a lot of power from this engine. The transmission itself is a little bit on the slower side to shift, and of course this is not necessarily an inherently sporty chassis or vehicle at the end of the day. It's really just a family hauler with a lot of cargo space and a lot of room and technology features, which Kia does best for the value of your money. You can see it does a great job just transitioning right back onto pavement, and even on pavement it is soft, comfortable, and very compliant. But I would really like to see them maybe even do this X-Pro variant with the hybrid powertrain, which is going to get you more power and a little bit more of an enjoyable driving experience. And especially for this off-road trim, I'd like to see an off-road mode other than just snow, as well as having those cameras on just a little bit longer to give you a little bit more of a better view of what's happening around your vehicle in different situations. Now, what is nice is acceleration on these gravel style roads is quite good. It's as a general acceleration and the throttle inputs of the Kia Sportage is very light to the touch. You can kind of just floor it in. Nothing really happens for a little bit, which again isn't great if you want something to be a little bit more sporty and athletic, like something like a CX-5, for example. But in day-to-day driving, I think it's quite fine. And as you can see in interior, it isn't really too loud. We're kind of going over a lot of ruts and stuff, and even underneath the floor you can hear a little bit of some rocks hitting up, but I think they've done generally a quite good job at sound insulation on the Sportage. Now, you may also notice there's some actual fake engine noise in this vehicle, so popping it into sport mode, have a little bit of a listen to this pumped in sound, which you can actually adjust in the infotainment system. And you can hear there, it cuts off the second you go off your accelerator, and that real engine noise does kick in. So, and it's weird because it almost sounds like it's off key just a little bit from the actual sound of the engine. So I would like to see a little bit better tuning on that. Hopefully they can work on that for this facelifted version, because the augmented engine sounds they're doing on their EVs are actually quite good. Now, we also do have the ability to lock the center differential of this Kia Sportage, which will kind of distribute power evenly across our 4 wheels. And you do get this nice little indication here of what's happening with all 4 wheels. So as of right now, it seems to know that we're kind of on a rougher or more loose surface because it's distributing power to all 4 wheels. A little bit more bias on the front wheels, but when you are on softer, just regular roads, you'll notice that it's primarily front wheel drive. Now, the second we press this lock button, we're going to see a lock come up there, and now you're going to see that power distribute evenly to all 4 wheels a little bit better than before. So if you're on some more snow situations or rougher, looser pavement situations, it's going to get you out of those sticky terrain a little bit easier. But what really impresses out here on the highway is it's generally quite quiet in here. I do like that. And I think this gigantic panoramic glass roof that literally spans almost like the entire length of the vehicle, which does open, its cover does actually help to improve noise insulation on the interior. So I have to say, generally, I'm quite impressed with the noise insulation in the Sportage. What also I do like in here is the highway driving assistant. One of my favorite things on Hyundai, Kia, and Genesis vehicles. It's just a fantastic generation of systems. We have a newer version out that is out now, but I think this version is still quite good. It's just so simple to use. You just turn on your cruise control from the button on the steering wheel, pop it to your set speed. You can set it to like a navigation set speed or a navigation tracked set speed, which is usually going to be whatever the speed is on the highway you're in. So if it goes to 55, it'll know it's at 55 and be like, oh, it's happy there. But it works so well. We have steering and lane keep assist, so full kind of steering assist as well. Kind of, it's going to help you go around curves, which I quite like. That's one of the more advanced systems. You can see here, it's good in the sense that it knows when a vehicle is going to be cutting in front of you, and when it cuts in front of you, it's going to kind of compensate the speed for that, which is a nice feature. And of course, you can always take over whenever you need to. We do have a, let's go back to that screen there, a driver assistance screen here. So it's going to have this like target dot on the vehicle in front of you, which I think is a pretty cool touch. A nice little animation there, and it will actually show vehicles around you in some cases as well. The newer generation screens have pretty much the same technology, so I do like those touches there. And when you leave it in smart drive mode, it actually will, as you can see now, we're going downhill. It's just kind of like coasting almost at the speed. It's not truly coasting, like disconnecting everything. As you can see, we still have some revs in the engine, but it's running at its lowest possible RPM that it can possibly run at, and it likes to try to get at least the best MPG that it can get out of this powertrain combo. And you know, I have not been too super impressed with this powertrain combo over this course of this week, just in the sense that the power is it's just not there. It's a naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine, and you know, with this gearbox, it's just a little bit outdated. I think going for like the hybrid or the plug-in hybrid, or even waiting for maybe in the next generation that may reintroduce a just turbo gas engine option, I think that would be a really nice touch for the Sportage. And it would also help to set it out from its class, which a lot of its members now may have small turbocharged engines, but they'll have similar power output numbers to this in the 180 to 200 horsepower range. It'd be nice to see the reintroduction of something in like the 230, maybe 250 horsepower range, things that we're seeing Mazda do, and Subaru did used to do in the Forester years ago with their turbocharged flat 4. And I have to say, with these chunkier off-road style rubber for this particular X Pro version, the ride is really quite comfortable on the highway. Around town, it's also quite comfortable. The thick sidewall and all that rubber really does actually kind of soak up a lot of bumps and undulations, in addition to the suspension on the road, which I think is quite nice. And it, surprisingly, it doesn't create too much tire noise, which I think is a really big plus. That's a big hat off to these tires, as well as the sound insulation that Kia has done with the Sportage. Now, again, big downsides on here. I think sometimes when you're kind of moving to change your climate controls, that can be a little bit confusing. I experienced this on the host of Kia vehicles that have this, I'm going to split style climate screen. You definitely get used to it. It's not that difficult, but it's something to get used to. You do have to switch to this climate screen, but at least it's separated from your infotainment system. But of course, the biggest downside with this generation infotainment system is that it's wired CarPlay, no wireless CarPlay. And this plagued every Hyundai, Kia, and Genesis product up until still a little bit today in some vehicles. They're finally rolling out that new system with the wireless CarPlay and Android Auto, which I think is just a little bit behind. Even though this system is generally quite good for what it was, that wireless function was missing. but it does work fine, and once you do get into it, you can see it's very quick, seamless to use. Harman Kardon system in here is generally okay, nothing too spectacular. I think the Bose systems and the Mazdas are definitely going to give you a nicer, more higher quality audio sound, but this is, I think, a fine system. You have a good amount of bass, it just doesn't provide a nice rich sound. It's a little bit hollow across the bandwidth of the sound spectrums there. And another thing I would like to see this vehicle have is an eco mode. So as you can see here, we have Smart, Sport, Normal, and Snow up on our digital dash, but that's about it. Smart is the closest thing we're going to get to an eco mode. It kind of just blends all of the modes together. It chooses what's best at what time. It's essentially like an auto mode in that sense, but it does allow for that kind of more efficient driving versus an even normal or obviously sport. Suspension, steering, body control on the highway is also quite good. I have to say, this does feel a lot more put together and controlled than what I've experienced in the Sorento. The facelift of the Sorento actually, I think, had a little bit more of a refined, luxurious, I would say, even more comfort-oriented driving style. This has a little bit more dash of dynamics and control, especially in the steering department. I found the Sorento steering, even the Telluride to be exact, it's too loose and too light, and just there's so much dead space in the steering. It just did not feel normal at all. This feels a little bit tighter, a little bit more controlled, more like just a normal everyday vehicle. This definitely is on kin with something from like a Subaru Forester or even the Nissan Rogue that I've just recently been in. Definitely feels on par with that. Still very comfort oriented, but has a little bit more of a connection, I feel, with the front tires. And of course, this thing does have full stop-start, traffic stop-start assist as well. So at that $40,000 price point, I think it's a pretty good overall safety package. You have those gorgeous cameras as your side blind spot mirrors as well, which is a really nice touch. I love how they still do that. And you know, a lot of these features actually you have to either pay extra for, or you have to even stop having higher trims than some competitors to even get.